Hello, English learners. Welcome to English in Advance. I am Jessica, your host for today. And I'm so happy you've chosen to spend some time with me in this English learning video. Get ready, because you are about to join an Advanced English Fluency Masterclass that is designed to completely transform the way you use English. In the next hour, we are going to dive deep into every single area of your language skills. We will sharpen your vocabulary with words and phrases that native speakers use every single day. We will polish your grammar, making you sound more sophisticated and accurate. We will train your ear to understand fast, natural English with real-world listening exercises. We will even work on your pronunciation, helping you to speak more clearly and confidently. And of course, we will get you speaking. This isn't just a lesson. It's a complete workout for your English. My goal is to help you feel that incredible sense of achievement when you can finally express your thoughts, your ideas, and your personality fluently and effortlessly in English. So find a comfortable spot, maybe grab a cup of coffee or tea, and let's begin this journey to fluency together. Are you ready? Let's get started. Have you ever been in a situation where two sentences sound almost exactly the same, but they mean completely different things? This happens all the time in English, especially with something called phrasal verbs. Let's look at an example. Imagine you hear someone say, "She called me out in a meeting." Now, imagine you hear this sentence, "She called out to me in the meeting." Do you hear the difference? It's tiny. Just two little words, out versus out to. But that small change creates a huge difference in meaning. These are the kinds of details that can be confusing for learners, but once you master them, your understanding of English will skyrocket. Today, you are going to learn these two phrasal verbs and 21 more. These are not rare academic phrases. These are phrasal verbs I personally use constantly, every single day. Adding them to your vocabulary is one of the fastest ways to understand native speakers with ease and to sound more fluent and natural yourself. First, let's talk about that first phrase, to call someone out. This means to confront someone or to criticize them for something they did, and usually this is done publicly. It's about pointing out that someone has done something wrong or something you disagree with. For example, imagine a politician is giving a speech and making promises that he never keeps. A brave journalist might stand up and say, "You promised to lower taxes, but you haven't done it." In that moment, she called him out for not keeping his promises. She publicly confronted him about his failure. Here's another example. Sometimes when I'm creating these lessons for you, I might make a small spelling mistake, a typo, and my wonderful students, maybe even you, will write in the comments, "Jessica, you spelled that word wrong." When you do that, you are calling me out on my mistake, and that's perfectly okay. I appreciate it because it helps me make better lessons for you. It's a form of public criticism, but it can be helpful. Now let's compare that to the second phrase, to call out to someone. This has a completely different meaning. It simply means to shout or raise your voice to get someone's attention. Imagine you are walking down a busy street and you see your friend, David, on the other side. There are cars and people everywhere. You can't just talk in a normal voice. You have to shout, "Hey, David, over here." In that situation, you called out to your friend across the street. You raised your voice to make him notice you. So let's put these side by side to make it perfectly clear. If I say, "He called out his friend," That means he publicly criticized his friend for something. Maybe his friend was being lazy at work and he said, "You need to do your share of the work," in front of all their colleagues. But if I say he called out to his friend, that simply means he shouted to get his friend's attention, like our example on the busy street. The grammar is also a little different. With call someone out, the person is the direct object. You call him out. With call out to someone, you need that little word to. You call out to him. I know this can be tricky, so feel free to pause and think about it for a moment. And remember, I have put all of this information into a free lesson PDF for you. You can find the link in the description below, so you can review it anytime you want. Let's move on to our next phrasal verb, to jump in. When you jump in, you enter a conversation or a situation that is already happening. It's like you are literally jumping into the middle of it. This is usually seen as a positive and welcome action. For instance, if I were leading a team meeting at work, I might say to my colleagues, "We're brainstorming ideas for the new project. Please feel free to jump in with any ideas you have." I am inviting them to participate, to add their thoughts at any time. Or imagine two managers are talking about a new employee, Olivia. One might say, "It's really nice to see Olivia jumping in during meetings now. She has some great ideas." This means Olivia is actively participating, sharing her opinions, and contributing to the discussion. Perhaps because her confidence in her English is growing. This shows that jump in is about positive participation. But what if the interruption is not welcome? That's when we use a different phrasal verb, to butt in. To butt in means to interrupt or intrude into a conversation in a rude or annoying way. It has a very negative feeling. For example, he kept butting in while I was trying to tell my story. This means he was rudely interrupting me over and over, and I found it very annoying. It's the opposite of a welcome contribution. You might hear someone say, "I don't mean to butt in, but..." They say this to be more polite, acknowledging that they are interrupting, but they feel what they have to say is important. There's another related phrase, to butt out. If you tell someone to butt out, you are telling them very directly, and often rudely, to stop getting involved in a situation that doesn't concern them. Imagine two friends are having a private argument, and a third person tries to give their opinion. One of them might say, "You should just butt out." This is none of your business. It's a very strong way to tell someone to leave the situation alone. So let's review the structure. You can jump into a conversation or butt into a conversation. Notice you need the word into when you mention the specific conversation, meeting, or situation, and you tell someone to butt out of a conversation. So remember, jump in is positive and welcome. Butt in is negative and rude. Next up, let's look at a very creative and useful phrasal verb, to come up with. This means to think of or create something new, like an idea, a plan, a solution, or even a story. It's about using your imagination and intelligence to produce something that didn't exist before. For instance, our team had a long meeting, and we finally came up with a new marketing strategy. This means we created a new strategy through our discussion and brainstorming. Scientists and inventors come up with new ideas all the time. Think about the person who came up with the idea for the first vaccine. It was a brilliant solution to a huge problem. I spend a lot of time every day thinking about new lesson ideas for you. I try to come up with interesting ways to explain difficult grammar or vocabulary. Now, It's your turn to practice. Think about a problem you have solved recently. What solution did you come up with? Try to say the sentence out loud. I came up with. Now let's change just one small word, the preposition, and see how the meaning changes. Let's talk about to come out with. This phrasal verb means to introduce or release something new to the public, usually a product or a service. This is all about making something available for people to buy or use. A great example is Apple. The way we communicate and live our lives changed forever when Apple came out with the iPhone. They released this new product to the world. A car company might come out with a new electric model. A movie studio might come out with a new blockbuster film. Let's compare these two phrasal verbs directly to make sure it's clear. The engineers at Apple came up with the idea for a smartphone. This means they thought of the concept, they imagined it. They created the plan in their minds. A few years later, Apple came out with the iPhone. This means they released the actual physical product for people to buy. So, you come up with the idea first, and then you come out with the product later. Let's move on to our next pair. The first is to back out of something. This means to decide not to do something that you had previously agreed to do. It's about withdrawing from a commitment or a promise. For example, let's say you and your friend agreed to start a business together. You made plans, you were excited, but at the last minute your friend gets scared and decides not to do it. You would say, he backed out of the deal at the last minute. He broke his promise to be your business partner. Or maybe you promised yourself that you would finish an entire English course. You're halfway through and it's getting difficult. I would tell you. You said you were going to finish the course. Don't back out now. Keep going. It means don't give up on your commitment. Now let's compare that to a phrasal verb that sounds similar but is used in a completely different context, to back something up. This is a very important phrase in our digital world. It means to make a copy of data, like files on your computer, to prevent it from being lost if your computer breaks. For years, my husband told me, Jessica, you should back up your computer. But I didn't listen. One day, my computer crashed and I lost everything. It was a terrible lesson to learn. Now I use cloud services like Google Docs, so my files are automatically backed up. This means a copy of my files is saved in a secure location online. So here is my advice to you. Always back up your computer. And don't back out of the things you promised to do. It's good advice for technology and for life. Our next phrasal verb is to catch on to something. This is what happens when you finally begin to understand or realize something, especially if it was a bit confusing or hidden at first. Imagine someone tells a very clever joke. Everyone else laughs immediately, but you don't get it. You're thinking, and then a minute later, the meaning clicks in your head and you start laughing. We could say, it took me a while, but I finally caught on to the joke. It means I finally understood it. You don't always need to say to something if the context is clear. You could just say, it took me a while, but I finally caught on. This phrase is also used when people start to understand a new trend or idea. For example, when smartphones first appeared, some people didn't understand why they were useful, but eventually people caught on to their advantages and now almost everyone has one. Let's compare this with a phrase that also uses the verb catch, to catch up to someone. This means to reach the same level or position as someone who was ahead of you. Think of a race. If one runner is far ahead, the other runners have to run faster to catch up to her. Or imagine you're driving on the highway and your friend is in a car way ahead of you. You might say, "She's driving too fast." We'll never catch up to her. We need that little word "too" when we mention the person. We will never catch up to her. If you don't mention the person, you can just say, "We'll never catch up." Now, let's look at one more variation. To catch up on something. This means to do the work or tasks that you should have done earlier, but didn't have time to do. For example, if you miss a week of work because you were sick, you will have a lot of emails and tasks waiting for you. You would say, "I need to go to the office on Saturday to catch up on my work." Let's try to use both in one sentence. I need to catch up on all the reports I missed so I can catch up to my coworker who is trying to get a promotion. First, you do the old work, then you reach the same level as your colleague. Next, we have a great phrasal verb for communication, to get across. This means to successfully communicate or make an idea understood by other people. Sometimes you have a great idea in your head, but it's difficult to explain it in a way that others can understand. Your goal is to get your point across. For example, in the meeting, he tried to get his point across about the budget cuts, but nobody seemed to understand. He was trying to communicate his idea successfully. Or maybe you're explaining something to me and I look confused. I might say, "I'm not sure what you're trying to get across. Could you explain it in a different way?" It's a very common phrase we use when we talk about communication and understanding. The main point I'm trying to get across today is that learning these phrasal verbs will make a huge difference in your fluency. Here is a wonderful positive phrasal verb I love to cheer on. This is when you encourage or support someone with a lot of enthusiasm, often by shouting or clapping. Think about a sports game. The fans in the stadium are there to cheer on their team. They shout things like, "Let's go! You can do it!" They are giving vocal support. This isn't just for sports. You can cheer on a friend who is running a marathon or even someone who is giving a big presentation. When you leave a positive comment on my videos, in a way, you are cheering me on. You are vocally supporting my work, and it means so much to me. I could say, "Thank you for always cheering me on. I couldn't do this without your support." Now let's look at a similar but different phrase, to cheer up. This means to help someone feel happier when they are sad, or to become happier yourself. If your friend failed an exam and is feeling really down, you might bring them some ice cream or take them to a movie to cheer them up. You are trying to lift their spirits and make them feel better. Or if you are feeling sad, a friend might say to you, "Cheer up. Things will get better." It's an encouragement to become happier. We can even combine these two phrasal verbs in a single thought. The fact that my family came to the stadium to cheer me on during my big game, that really cheered me up. Their support made me feel much happier and more confident. Let's discuss our next pair. The first one is probably familiar to many of you. To carry on. This simply means to continue doing an activity or task. It often implies that you are continuing despite a challenge or difficulty. For instance, even though the rain started, they decided to carry on with the outdoor concert. They continued despite the bad weather. Or a more personal example, she decided to carry on with her studies, despite facing financial difficulties. She didn't quit. She continued. It shows persistence and determination. Let's compare this to another phrasal verb using carry, to carry out. This means to perform or complete a plan, a task, an order, or an experiment. It's about taking an action and seeing it through to completion. For example, the scientists will carry out the experiment tomorrow. This means they will perform the experiment. Or, the soldiers were ordered to carry out the mission. They were told to complete the task. Let's try to combine these two. Imagine a team of scientists working on a series of tests. The leader might say, "All right, team, let's carry on with the experiments. Have you carried out the first test yet?" So, carry on with means to continue the overall project of experiments, and carry out means to complete one specific test. Remember the structure. You carry on with something, but you carry something out. Next, let's look at two phrasal verbs that involve looking, but in very different ways. First, we have to look into something. This means to investigate or examine something in detail to find out more information. When you look into something, you are doing research. For example, if a customer complains about a faulty product, the company will say, "Thank you for letting us know. We will look into the issue right away." This means they will investigate what went wrong. If my internet stops working, I will call the company and ask them to look into it for me. It's about trying to find the cause of a problem. Now let's compare that to look over something. This means to review or examine something, but quickly or casually. You are not doing a deep investigation. You're just giving it a quick check. For instance, could you please look over this email before I send it? I'm not asking you to research it. I'm just asking you to read it quickly to check for mistakes. Before you sign an important document, you should always look it over carefully. Let's combine these. Imagine you're thinking about investing in a new company. You might say, "I looked into the company's financial history and I didn't find any major problems. Now, I just need to look over the contract before I sign." So first you do the detailed investigation, look into, and then you do the quick review, look over. Here's another pair of phrasal verbs that can be confusing. To check in with someone. This means to contact or talk to someone briefly, usually to report your status or to see how they are doing. It's a routine, often informal communication. For example, an employee might check in with his supervisor before leaving for the day. He might go to his boss's office and say, "I'm heading out now. Is there anything else you need from me?" That's checking in. Or if your friend is on a long trip, you might send them a text that says, "Just checking in to see how you're doing." It's a friendly way to get an update. This is different from our next phrase, to check up on someone. This means to monitor or observe someone's progress, condition, or behavior to make sure everything is okay. It often implies a bit more concern or even a lack of trust. For example, if my grandfather recently had surgery, I would call him every day to check up on him. I'm monitoring his condition to make sure he's recovering well. However, this phrase can sometimes have a negative feeling. Imagine a manager who doesn't trust their employees. An employee might complain, "My boss checks up on me every 5 minutes. He doesn't trust me to do my job." In this case, checking up on means monitoring too closely, suggesting a lack of faith in the person's abilities. So, check in with is usually a neutral, routine communication. Check up on can be about caring for someone's health, or it can be about monitoring someone because you don't fully trust them. Here's a very common phrasal verb you should definitely know, to hang out. This simply means to spend time with someone socially in a casual, relaxed way. It's not for formal events. It's for relaxing with friends. For example, we didn't do much last weekend. We just hung out at my house and watched movies. Or you could say to a friend you haven't seen in a while, we should hang out soon. It's an invitation to spend some casual time together. It's one of the most common ways young Americans talk about socializing. Now, be very careful not to confuse this with a phrasal verb that sounds very similar. To hang up. This means to end a phone call. It comes from the old days when you would literally hang the receiver back on the phone. For example, she was so angry that she hung up on me. It means she ended the call abruptly. Let's try to use both in one funny sentence. She hung up the phone before they could decide where to hang out later. So she ended the call before they could make a plan to spend time together. So please don't hang up on me now. Now we have so much more to learn. Finally, our last pair of phrasal verbs. The first is to break up with someone. You probably know this one. It means to end a romantic relationship. For example, after 5 years together, Liam broke up with his girlfriend last month. It's often a sad and difficult thing to talk about. If you are the one ending the relationship, you say, I broke up with him, or I broke up with her. If you and your partner decide to end it together, you can say, we broke up. Notice in that case, because we is the subject, you don't need to say with someone. We broke up. Now, don't confuse this with to break something up. This means to separate something into smaller pieces or parts. For example, a teacher might have a very large and difficult assignment. To make it easier for the students, she could break up the assignment into 3 smaller parts. Or imagine 2 children are fighting over a toy. A parent might step in to break up the fight. They are separating the children and stopping the conflict. So, if you say, I broke her up, that sounds very strange and a little scary. It sounds like you divided her into smaller pieces. But if you say, I broke up with her, that just sounds sad because it means you ended your romantic relationship with her. Amazing job. You have just learned 23 essential phrasal verbs. Taking the time to understand these small differences will make a huge impact on your fluency. Now, let's keep expanding your vocabulary and train your listening skills at the same time. In this next section, we are going to do a listening exercise using clips from real, native English speakers. I will play a short video clip where someone is speaking at a natural, fast pace. Your job is to listen very carefully and try to complete the missing words in the sentence. We will listen to each clip twice. Are you ready for the first one? Let's listen. It's worth mentioning we're going to have to be pretty frank about the human body and some of the more icky parts when studying outbreaks. Let's listen one more time. It's worth mentioning we're going to have to be pretty frank about the human body and some of the more icky parts when studying outbreaks. How did you do with that one? It was quite fast. She said, it's worth mentioning we're going to have to be pretty frank about the human body and some of the more icky parts when studying outbreaks. Did you manage to get all the words? Let's break down some of the pronunciation that might have been tricky. First, notice the contraction we're. Native speakers use contractions all the time, and we pronounce them in a very unstressed, quick way. We're instead of we are. She also said going to, but as you probably know, in casual spoken English, this is almost always reduced to gonna. This is very common, but remember, you should only use it in speaking, not in formal writing. She also blended some words together. Listen to the phrase, some of the. Instead of saying 3 separate words, some of the, she connects them and reduces the vowel sounds. It sounds more like some-a-tha, some-a-tha. It almost sounds like one continuous word. Try saying it with me. Some-a-tha, some-a-tha. Now let's talk about the grammar and vocabulary. One of your missing words was mentioning. This is because of the expression to be worth something. After this expression, you always need to use the gerund form of the verb, which is the verb ending in dashing. So, it's worth doing something. It's worth trying something. In her case, it's worth mentioning something. Here's another example for you. It's worth subscribing to English in Advance. Now, if a friend asks you, should I subscribe to that channel? You can give a very natural-sounding reply by saying, yes, it's worth it. What does it refer to? It refers to subscribing. It's worth subscribing. And if you want to sound even more like a native speaker, you can add an intensifier like totally. Oh yeah, it's totally worth it. Do you agree with that statement? If you do, I want you to say, that's right, out loud right now. And don't worry about writing all this down because I have summarized everything for you in that free lesson PDF. The link is in the description. Next, she used the phrase, to be frank. To be frank means to be honest, direct, and open, especially when you are talking about a topic that might be uncomfortable or sensitive. We often use this phrase to begin a sentence to warn the listener that we are about to be very direct. For example, to be frank, I didn't enjoy the movie at all. The speaker is preparing their friend for an honest and perhaps disappointing opinion. In the clip, the speaker said they had to be pretty frank. The word pretty here is just used as an intensifier, like very or really. Finally, did you hear the word icky? Icky. This is a very informal, conversational word that means something is unpleasant, gross, or distasteful. You might say, ugh, taking out the trash is such an icky job, or there's some icky, sticky stuff on the floor. It's a great word to use in casual conversation. Are you ready for your next listening challenge? Remember, your job is to complete the missing words. You'll hear it twice. Let's listen. I've leveled with you before we started making this movie. I'd never been on a pair of skis in my life. Okay, one more time. Listen carefully. I've leveled with you before we started making this movie. I'd never been on a pair of skis in my life. Were you able to complete the missing words this time? The speaker said, I've got a level with you. Before we started making this movie, I'd never been on a pair of skis in my life. Let's look at the pronunciation. Just like going to becomes gonna, got to is very often reduced to gotta. Gotta in fast spoken English. I've got to becomes I gotta. Listen again. I gotta level with you. You also heard a couple of contractions that can be difficult to catch. He said I'd, which is a contraction of I had. The D sound is very soft and quick. I'd never been. He also said a pair of skis. Notice how he reduces the word of to just an sound, and then he links it all together. A pair of skis. It sounds like one smooth phrase. Now let's look at that key expression you are listening for, to level with someone. This means to be completely honest with someone and tell them the truth, especially when it's a truth that is surprising or perhaps a little difficult or harsh. For example, I could say, I have to level with you. I don't like chocolate ice cream. Now, this is a surprising truth for many people in the USA because it's so popular. Notice that Americans very commonly say, I gotta level with you instead of, I have to level with you. They mean exactly the same thing. Here is another example, a more serious one. A manager might say to an employee, I've got to level with you. Your performance at work has been slipping recently. Slipping means it's been getting worse. This is a harsh or uncomfortable truth to share. Because of this, you can also use that other expression we just learned. To be frank, the manager could also say, I have to be frank with you. Your performance has been slipping. They are both ways to signal that you are about to share an honest and direct piece of information. Okay, let's move on to our third listening exercise. Again, listen twice and fill in the missing words. Here we go. I think a lot of people will reflect on their previous year and think, you know what? What is the one thing I want to work on? Let's listen for a second time. I think a lot of people will reflect on their previous year and think, you know what? What is the one thing I want to work on? How did you do with that one? Was it a little easier or still difficult for you? The speaker said, I think a lot of people will reflect on their previous year and think, you know what? What is the one thing I want to work on? Let's talk about the connected speech. The phrase a lot of almost always gets squashed together to sound like a lot of people. Notice also the link-in between words that end in a consonant and words that start with a vowel. She said reflect on, because reflect ends with a T sound and on starts with a vowel sound. You can link them together. Reflect on, reflect on. It sounds like one word. The same thing happens with work on. It becomes work on. Work on. The phrase you know what might have been hard to hear because it becomes very unstressed in the middle of a sentence. It sounds more like you know what, you know what. And finally, want to becomes wanna, wanna. That's a very common reduction. I wanted you to pay special attention to the verbs reflect on and work on. When you are learning new vocabulary, it's so important to also learn the prepositions that go with the verbs. If you use the wrong preposition, your sentence won't sound natural. So to reflect on something means to think deeply and carefully about it. We often reflect on past experiences to learn from them or to make decisions about the future. For example, after I finished the project, I took some time to reflect on what went well and what could be improved. It's a very thoughtful process. Next, the phrase, you know what, is a very common interjection. We use it to introduce a new thought or suggestion, or sometimes just to create a small pause while we gather our thoughts. For instance, instead of just saying, we should have a party, which can sound a bit sudden, you could say, you know what? We should have a party for your birthday. Using you know what gets the listener's attention and prepares them for your idea. Let's get ready for the next listening clip. You know what to do. Listen twice. Watch this video and get the scoop on a little-known storytelling technique that'll crank up the believability of your message. And one more time. Watch this video and get the scoop on a little-known storytelling technique that'll crank up the believability of your message. Was that one more difficult for you? He spoke very quickly. He said, watch this video and get the scoop on a little-known storytelling technique that'll crank up the believability of your message. Let's look at the connected speech. Instead of saying scoop on A with pauses, he links it all together into one smooth sound. Scoop on A. Scoop on A. Get the scoop on a little-known technique. The word that'll might have been tricky. That is a contraction of that will. That'll crank up. It's very common in spoken English. Now for the vocabulary. Did you hear the phrase, the scoop? This is a great informal expression. The scoop means the inside information, the latest secrets, or exclusive details about something. For example, if you know that someone at your office is getting a promotion, but it hasn't been announced yet, your colleague might come to you and ask, "So, can you give me the scoop on who's getting the promotion?" They want the secret, inside information. Or you could ask, "What's the scoop on the new project?" Which means, what are the latest details? Now what about crank up? Imagine I said to you, "Brr, it's cold in here. Could you crank up the heat?" What would you do? You would turn the heat to a higher temperature. Or if we are listening to a great song, I might say, "I love this song, crank it up." That means turn the volume up. So, to crank up means to increase the intensity, the volume, or the level of something. In the audio clip, the speaker talked about a technique that will crank up the believability of your message. Believability is the noun form. It's the quality of being believable. Believable is the adjective. For example, if my friend tells me she won the lottery and she's a great actor, I might say, "Wow, you were so believable." I almost fell for it. I could also say, using the expression we learned earlier, to be frank, his story lacked believability. It means it was hard to believe his story. See how you can start to mix and match all this new vocabulary? Okay, we have one more listening exercise. Let's do this. Listen carefully. All right, we've been planning for months. Let's do it. It's go time. And for the last time. All right, we've been planning for months. Let's do it. It's go time. Did you get that first word? It was spoken very quickly. He said, "All right, we've been planning for months. Let's do it. It's go time." You might not have heard that first word, all right, because of how native speakers often reduce sounds. Instead of clearly saying all right, we often say it quickly and it sounds more like all right. All right. It can be very unstressed. We've is, of course, the contraction of we have. The word for often sounds like fur. Fur, very unstressed. For months. And notice the linking in do it. To make it sound smoother, we can add a very small W sound in between do it, do it. When you say it quickly, you barely hear the W, but it helps connect the sounds smoothly. Do it, do it. Let's talk about the phrases he used. All right can be used in a couple of ways. It can be a simple confirmation. If I say, "Let's meet at 3 p.m., you can reply, "All right," to confirm that you agree. It can also be used as an interjection to get attention and signal that you are ready to start something. For example, a manager could start a meeting by saying, "All right, let's begin." In the clip, it was used in this way to signal the start of an action. Then he said, "Let's do it." I say this a lot, so maybe you've heard it from me. This is a very common, informal way to signal that you are ready to act. If I say, "Today we're going to learn 30 new words. Are you ready?" You can reply with energy and say, "Let's do it, Jessica." Finally, he used a fantastic expression. It's go time. I love this one. This is an informal way to say that now is the moment to act. The time we've all been waiting for has arrived. It's often used with a lot of excitement and energy. You can imagine a sports team in the locker room right before a big game. The coach might say, "Okay, team, it's go time." It means the time for talking is over and the time for action is now. You are doing a fantastic job. We've worked on phrasal verbs and your listening skills. Now let's focus on your grammar and vocabulary in a different way. We're going to learn some very important English collocations. Collocations are words that naturally go together in English. Using the correct collocations will make your English sound much more natural and fluent. We are going to do this with a fun quiz. I will show you a sentence with a blank space, and you will have 5 seconds to choose the correct word to complete the collocation. After the time is up, we'll talk about the correct answer, see more examples, and even listen to native speakers using the collocation in real life. Are you ready for question 1? He promised he wouldn't lie, but he decided to. His promise. Your options are A, take, B, break, or C, make. The correct answer is B, break. The collocation is to break a promise. This means to fail to do what you have promised to do. For example, 5 years ago, I made a promise to post a new English lesson for you every single week on my YouTube channel. And I am very proud to say that I haven't broken that promise yet. Let's listen to some real examples of this collocation. If I break a promise, I have done something wrong. You break a promise with God, you're sinning. And we'll break a promise, it doesn't really matter. Okay, question number 2. A great handshake can leave a impression. Your options are A, lasting, B, long, or C, final. The correct answer is A, lasting. The collocation is a lasting impression. This refers to an effect, a feeling, or a memory that stays in your mind for a very long time. Hopefully, after you finish this masterclass today, you might think to yourself, "Wow, that lesson left a lasting impression on me." That would mean you will remember all these new words and feel more confident for a long time to come. Again, you don't need to take notes because I have everything summarized for you in the free PDF lesson guide, and you can find that link in the description. Let's listen to some examples. And the thing that left a long-lasting impression on me was how the people I met. Now, that's honesty and integrity, and it's also why his performance has left such a lasting impression. A simple act of kindness can make a lasting impression. Let's move to question 3. She has a workload this month and needs extra help. Is it A, big, B, large, or C, heavy? The correct answer is C, heavy, a heavy workload. I hear many students say a big workload, but the correct and natural collocation is heavy. A heavy workload simply means a very large amount of work that you have to do. You might say, "It's difficult for me to study English every day because of my heavy workload." Let's listen to how native speakers use this phrase. How does she juggle all that heavy workload and be president of the sorority? The number one hindrance to good teaching is heavy workload. It's definitely been a pretty heavy workload. Question 4 is the opposite. After finishing the project, she finally has a workload. Is it A, small, B, little, or C, light? The correct answer is C, light. The opposite of a heavy workload, which is a big amount of work, is a light workload, which is a small amount of work. So hopefully you can say, "Now that I have a light workload, I have more time to watch all of Jessica's lessons." Let's listen to some examples from native speakers. The workload was so light to do compositor-based operations. To lighten your workload. Question 5. To succeed, you need to be proactive and initiative? Do you A, take, B, do, or C, make initiative? The correct answer is A, take. To take initiative. If you take initiative, it means you are the first person to take action to solve a problem or to achieve a goal without waiting for someone to tell you what to do. For example, he took the initiative to find a new speaking partner online, and his fluency improved so much. This is exactly what you need to do. There are thousands of people who want to practice speaking English, but you have to be the one to take initiative and find them. Let's listen to some examples. Who are going to take initiative, not just do the minimum daily requirement? People expect you to do things on your own here. They expect you to take initiative. That person doesn't take initiative. I guess they're not really a leader. How are you doing with the quiz so far? Let's keep going. Question 6. The campaign started slow, but it began to momentum. Is it A, get, B, gain, or C, have momentum? The correct answer is B, gain, to gain momentum. This means to progress or move forward at an increasingly fast pace. It starts slow and then gets faster and faster. For example, as my English fluency and confidence grew, I began to gain momentum in my career. This means that your success in your job started to increase at a faster and faster rate. This is what becoming fluent in English can help you accomplish. Let's hear some real-world examples. Now, as SPACS gain momentum, more blue-chip institutions and veteran investors are buying in. Slowly but surely, we began to gain momentum. We gain momentum by using the cupcakes for this documentary. Question number 7. Her speech had an impact on everyone in the room. Is it A, deep, B, strong, or C, profound? The correct answer is C, profound. A profound impact. This means a very significant, deep, and powerful impact that can change the way you think or feel. You might say, my first English teacher had a profound impact on my life. This means you still remember her and the important lessons she taught you even today. Let's listen to some examples of this powerful collocation. Words are that powerful. They don't not only affect your interior psychology and your identity, they have a profound impact on the world around you. It's something so simple and yet has such a profound impact. So you don't have to know someone well to have a profound impact on them. Question 8. In order to pass the inspection, our products need to standards. Do they A, achieve, B, meet, or C, reach standards? The correct answer is meet, to meet standards. If something meets a standard, it means it reaches the expected level of quality or fulfills the necessary requirements. This is very often used when talking about products or services. For example, all toys must meet safety standards before they can be sold to the public. Let's listen to how this is used. How often do judges not meet standards? And we're going to close places that don't meet standards. They don't have to meet standards, and that is very, very dangerous. Question 9. The proposal was accepted by a majority of the team. Was it A, overwhelming, B, overflowing, or C, overbearing? C. The correct answer is A, an overwhelming majority. This means a very, very large percentage or proportion of a group. There isn't an exact number, but I would personally say that an overwhelming majority is probably 75% or more of the group. For example, an overwhelming majority of English learners, maybe 80% or 90%, say that listening is their biggest challenge. What do you think? Let's listen to some examples. The overwhelming majority, they work really hard doing really important stuff. And the overwhelming majority said no. An overwhelming majority believe the death penalty is a part of that public safety focus. Question number 10. We had a discussion about the project's challenges. Was it an A, open, B, honest, or C, frank discussion? The correct answer is C, frank. A frank discussion. We learned the word frank earlier. A frank discussion is one that is very open, honest, and direct, even if the topic is difficult. For example, we need to have a frank discussion about the client's expectations before we start the project. Let's hear this collocation in use. Having frank, detailed, and honest discussions on how you'll handle joint versus solo finances. And I thought it was a good and useful and frank discussion. Our focus is on having a frank discussion, issues where we have concerns. You are doing an incredible job. Think of all the natural English phrases you are learning. Let's continue. Question 11. He decided to responsibility for his actions. Do you A, take, B, accept, or C, have responsibility? The correct answer is A, take. To take responsibility. This means to accept that you are the person who is responsible for something, especially for a mistake or a problem. For example, you could be very frank and say, I take full responsibility for the project's delay. This is a very mature and professional thing to say. Let's listen to some examples. Training Afghan forces to take responsibility for their own security. He said someone has to take responsibility. We must take responsibility now for our role in this crisis. Question 12. The board will approval for the new policy next week. Will they A, give, B, grant, or C, allow approval? The correct answer is B, grant, to grant approval. This is a more formal way to say to officially agree to or allow something. For example, the team cannot start the project until the director grants approval. Let's listen. The Queen must grant her approval before the gown can even start being made. The ministry will quickly grant approval if companies apply for an extension in working hours. Question 13. Both parties finally reached an agreement. Was it a mutual, shared, or common agreement? The correct answer is A, a mutual agreement. A mutual agreement is one that all the people involved accept and agree to. It could be two people, or it could be a whole team, but everyone is in agreement. For example, we reached a mutual agreement to postpone the meeting until next week. Everyone agreed that this was the best decision. Let's hear some examples. It's a mutual agreement in a group that you will put the welfare of the group above your own. And we talked about issues by mutual agreement. This mutual agreement between the parent and child was a really nice cooperative strategy. We are almost done with our quiz. Question 14. The project had an influence on the younger team members. Was it a good, positive, or great influence? The correct answer is B, positive. A positive influence. This, of course, is an influence that leads to good results or improvements. You might say, learning English has had a positive influence on my life because it has opened up so many new opportunities. It has helped you gain momentum in your life and career. Let's listen. She is a role model, a positive influence, and has a powerful ability to motivate others. We're going to be a positive influence to everybody around us. We're talking about being a positive influence in their communities, making a difference. And our final question, number 15. By introducing this new feature, the company gained a advantage. Is it A, competition, B, competitive, or C, competing? The correct answer is B, competitive. We need the adjective form here. A competitive advantage is something that allows a person, a team, or a company to perform better than others. It's what makes them special and more successful. You could say, being fluent in English gives you a competitive advantage in today's global job market. Do you agree with that statement? I certainly do. Let's listen to our final set of examples. It's going to be a competitive advantage for us. Leverage your sources of unfair competitive advantage. What really is a company's most competitive advantage? It's people. Incredible work. Now, for our final and most in-depth section, we are going to read a news article together. This method of combining reading and listening is one of the most powerful ways to improve all areas of your English at once. We'll explore vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation, all within the context of an interesting real-world topic. Our headline today is, Scientists may have solved mystery behind Egypt's pyramids. Now, right away in this headline, there is a small grammar word missing, an article. Headlines often leave out small words to save space. Do you know where an article should go in this sentence? It should be, Scientists may have solved the mystery. We need the I, because it's a specific mystery that everyone knows about, the mystery of how the pyramids were built. If we said a mystery, it would mean any random mystery. Notice the last part of the headline, Egypt's pyramids. Here, pyramids is a plural noun, so an article is optional. But more importantly, we have a possessive, Egypt's. The apostrophe S shows that the pyramids belong to Egypt. A possessive word like this replaces the need for an article. However, remember that an adjective does not replace an article. For example, if we changed Egypt's to the adjective Egyptian, the headline would be Egyptian pyramids. In that case, we would need the article, the Egyptian pyramids, because we are still talking about specific pyramids. This is a small but important grammar rule. Also, look at that very important word in the headline, may. This is a modal verb of possibility. When the headline says, scientists may have solved the mystery, it means it's just one possibility. It is not a fact. Another possibility is that they have not solved it. This word choice is very important because it tells us that the information is not 100% certain. It's like if I ask you to subscribe to my channel and you say, Jessica, I may subscribe. That's not terrible news, but it's not the best news either. It's a 50-50 chance. But if you say, I will subscribe, then that is great news because will shows a commitment or a promise. So if you enjoy these lessons and you want to show your support for me and my channel, please show your commitment and put "That's right" in the comments section below. And don't forget, I summarize everything in the free PDF guide for you. Now let's continue with the article and learn about this fascinating mystery. The first sentence reads, Scientists believe they may have solved the mystery of how 31 pyramids, including the world-famous Giza complex, were built in Egypt more than 4,000 years ago. Notice that now we are in the body of the article. All the normal grammar rules apply. The article the is included, the mystery. The modal verb may have solved again shows us this is a potential discovery, not a confirmed fact. Look at the verb were built. Why is it were and not was, even though it comes right after the Giza complex? which is a single thing. That's because "were built" is connected to the real subject of the sentence, which is 31 pyramids. The part in the middle, including the world-famous Giza complex, is just extra information. You can remove it, and the sentence is still grammatically correct. 31 pyramids were built in Egypt. Let's quickly review the grammar of that modal verb phrase. If I say, "I solved the problem," this is the past simple tense. It's a completed action in the past, and it sounds like a fact. There is no doubt about it. But if I say, "I may have solved the problem," this is very different. It expresses the possibility of a past action. Maybe I solved it, maybe I didn't. There is some doubt. This is a great structure to practice to show different levels of certainty about past events. The article continues. A research team has discovered that the pyramids are likely to have been built along a long-lost ancient branch of the Nile River. Notice the verb here, has discovered. This is the present perfect tense. It's used for a past action that has a result in the present. The result is that now we have a new theory about how the pyramids were built. But notice another word of possibility. Likely. The pyramids are likely to have been built this way. The word likely suggests a higher probability than may. If may is about 50%, likely is probably closer to 80%. It's a strong possibility, but still not a certainty. Let's review articles again for a moment. The sentence says, "the pyramids." We use "the" because we are talking about the specific pyramids in Egypt. If we were talking about pyramids in general, all over the world, we wouldn't use an article. We would say, "Pyramids are beautiful." But because we are talking about specific ones, we say, "the pyramids in Egypt are beautiful." Or, using the adjective, "the Egyptian pyramids are beautiful." And with the possessive, we don't need an article. Egypt's pyramids are beautiful. The article goes on. For many years, archaeologists have thought that ancient Egyptians must have used a nearby waterway to transport materials, such as the stone blocks, needed to build the pyramids on the river. Let's look at the pronunciation of that word. Archaeologists. 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 Notice the verb, tense again. Have thought. This is the present perfect because the thinking started many years ago and has continued until now. And here we have another modal of possibility in the past. Must have used. This expresses a very strong degree of possibility, even stronger than likely. Must have suggests that this is the most logical conclusion based on the evidence. It's probably 90% or 95% certain in the speaker's mind. For example, if I see that you look very tired, I might say, "You must not have slept well last night." Based on the evidence, your tired face, this is my logical conclusion. In the article, archaeologists believe it's the only logical way such heavy materials could have been moved. So we have seen 3 levels of possibility about the past. Could have expresses one possibility among many. May have expresses a medium possibility, about 50-50. And must have expresses a very strong possibility based on logical deduction. Practicing these will make your English sound much more nuanced and precise. The next sentence says, "Up until now, nobody was certain of the location, the shape, the size or proximity of this mega waterway to the actual pyramid's site." Let's look at the time phrase, "up until now." You are probably more familiar with just "until now." They mean exactly the same thing, from the past to this present moment. Adding the word "up" makes it sound a little more conversational and informal, but the meaning does not change. For example, you could say, "Up until now, I always thought learning grammar was boring." It means that in the entire period of the past leading to this moment, that was your belief. Let's keep reading. In a cross-continental effort, the group of researchers used radar satellite imagery to map the river branch, which they believe was buried by a major drought and sandstorms thousands of years ago. Cross-continental means it involved people from different continents. Let's look at the word buried. Be careful with the pronunciation. Don't look at the spelling. It's not pronounced bur-eed. It rhymes with berry, like a strawberry. Berry, buried, buried. And what about the word drought? The off here makes an ow sound like in out. Doctor out, drought. A drought is a long period with no rain. The article says they believe it was buried this way. Again, the word choice shows us this is their theory, not a proven fact. If they were certain, they would use words like they know or they are certain. It was buried. The article continues. The team was able to penetrate the sand surface and produce images of hidden features by using the radar technology. Notice that team is a collective noun, a group of people. But in American English, it is treated as a singular noun. That's why the verb is was. The team was able. If the sentence used the word researchers, which is plural, the verb would be were. The researchers were able. Among those features were buried rivers and ancient structures running at the foothills of where the vast majority of the ancient Egyptian pyramids lie. So, using their technology, they found evidence of old rivers hidden under the sand, right next to where the pyramids are located. The waterway could have been used for the transportation of heavier blocks, equipment, and people. Here's another modal of possibility. Could have been used. This suggests it is one possible explanation for how things were transported. As we discussed, could often implies a lower level of certainty than may or must. The discovery of this extinct river branch helps explain the high pyramid density between Giza and Lisht, the site of Middle Kingdom burials, in what is now an inhospitable area of the Saharan desert. Let's look at the pronunciation of burials, another word related to buried. It's pronounced burials. A burial is the act of putting a dead body into the ground. The article also uses the word inhospitable. An inhospitable place is an area that is very difficult for humans to live in because the conditions are too harsh, like a desert or the top of a very high mountain. Finally, the last sentence. The river branch's proximity to the pyramid complexes suggests that it was active and operational during the construction phase of these pyramids. Proximity just means closeness. So the fact that this ancient river was very close to the pyramids is strong evidence that it was used to help build them. The word suggests is one last clue that this is still a theory, a very strong one, but not yet presented as a 100% proven fact. That's the end of our article. You did an amazing job working through that with me. Now, to practice your listening and to enjoy the flow of the text, I will read the entire article from start to finish without stopping. Just relax and listen. Scientists may have solved mystery behind Egypt's pyramids. Scientists believe they may have solved the mystery of how 31 pyramids, including the world-famous Giza complex, were built in Egypt more than 4,000 years ago. A research team has discovered that the pyramids are likely to have been built along a long-lost ancient branch of the Nile River. For many years, archaeologists have thought that ancient Egyptians must have used a nearby waterway to transport materials such as the stone blocks needed to build the pyramids on the river. Up until now, nobody was certain of the location, the shape, the size, or proximity of this mega waterway to the actual pyramid site. In a cross-continental effort, the group of researchers used radar satellite imagery to map the river branch, which they believe was buried by a major drought and sandstorms thousands of years ago. The team was able to penetrate the sand surface and produce images of hidden features by using the radar technology. Among those features were buried rivers and ancient structures running at the foothills of where the vast majority of the ancient Egyptian pyramids lie. The waterway could have been used for the transportation of heavier blocks, equipment, and people. The discovery of this extinct river branch helps explain the high pyramid density between Giza and Lisht, the site of Middle Kingdom burials in what is now an inhospitable area of the Saharan desert. The river branch's proximity to the pyramid complexes suggests that it was active and operational during the construction phase of these pyramids. What an incredible journey we have been on today. We have worked through dozens of phrasal verbs, trained our ears with real native speaker audio, mastered essential collocations, and analyzed a fascinating news article together. You have truly completed a Fluency Masterclass. If you stayed with me through this entire lesson, I want to congratulate you. Your dedication to improving your English is truly inspiring. Do you want me to create another deep dive masterclass just like this one? If you do, I want you to go down to the comments and write, "Let's go." Your feedback helps me know what kind of lessons you enjoy the most. And of course, if you found this lesson helpful, please show your support by liking this video and sharing it with a friend who is also learning English. Most importantly, make sure you subscribe to English in Advance and click that little bell notification icon. That way, you won't miss out on any of our future lessons. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Jessica, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Keep practicing, and you will achieve all of your fluency goals.